All right. Once again, I want to welcome everybody to this webinar. So hopefully in the next hour, you guys will get a lot out of this presentation. My name is Shane Pritchard, and I don't have a whole lot of PowerPoints or anything. I've got this Sway document that we're going to take a look at here, just to kind of explain a few things. But and then we'll get right into collaborating with the Fusion platform. So most of you, I'm sure, have been involved with a webinar. If you have questions, I'm the only one that's presenting today. So if you have questions, feel free to ask those, and I'll try to answer them when I can, or after the webinar. We'll be sure to get back to you. All right. So the agenda for this hour, you can see that I have this image here. And basically, when you think about collaborating with CAD, it takes a few steps, and it takes maybe a data management tool. It takes proprietary viewers and maybe a VPN to get in if you're traveling. So what I'm showing here is just basically an image of the possibilities of accessing data on our Fusion platform. So if you have a mobile device, regardless of Android or Apple, you can see you see a Mac here. You can see that it doesn't really matter what platform that you have. You have access to your data. So a little bit about myself. I'm part of the Street team, which we're really just defined to help our early adopters be successful with our product. We realize that cloud platform, our Fusion platforms, new to a lot of people, and we're just here to help out. So in my past, I supported SolidWorks, and towards the end of that, really spent a lot of time with kind of the data management side of things, Workgroup PDM and Enterprise. So just to give you an idea of what to expect today, by the end of this hour, you're gonna have an understanding of what's available. Time permitting, we're gonna hopefully get through the majority of this list that I have here. First of all, how do we get files into this platform and all the viewers? How do we mark up, and what does that look like? So I'm going to take you through some workflows, and hopefully you guys will have a good understanding of what's capable in our Fusion platform. All right, so let me just come over here to Fusion, and the first thing that I want to talk about is where do we store our data? So we simply call it a hub. You may have heard that term. It's really just in the cloud. We have two types of hubs today. If you're an individual user, you have a personal hub, or if you're a student or an educator, you have a personal hub, and you can share data with people, and you can access data from other people that are sharing with you. And then we have, for more enterprise level teams, we have a team hub, and so there's a little bit, it's a little bit more secure. You have an explicit admin and things that you would expect for groups of people that are looking at data. So first of all, what does this look like from the Fusion standpoint? We have, I just selected the data panel. So in Fusion, we have a data panel, and this gives you visibility to, like right now I'm looking at my recent data. If I go back, I can see all my projects. So we deal with projects, and within those projects, you have the ability to create folders, and you'll be able to access all of the information right here from the data panel. So realistically, if you're using Fusion, you're going to be interacting with this, back and forth, having it closed and look for files, and then you'll just close it when you're done with it. So this also gives you visibility to who you have shared your projects with, and this is based on a project to project level. So I'm in this Fusion 360 Street Team project, and these are the users that I've invited to this project. This is the data, and what we're looking at is a folder structure. So a lot of people, when they're first exposed to Fusion, they recognize that you don't have to go into, Windows Explorer or, on a Mac, the Finder, and navigate to your data. Everything is cached locally into this area, and then in the background, we're just seamlessly updating, synchronizing things when you work on your designs. Why that's important is because as soon as you hit save, everyone that has access to your project, it's real time, it's live. So those specific things that that it would require an email or some type of notification or printing, that just kind of goes away. So one thing I want everyone to consider when we're looking at some of the capabilities in Fusion and A360 is the obstacles that we're removing. So if you've had challenges with traditional CAD and traditional data management and proprietary viewers of sharing data, there's a lot of obstacles that are usually in your way, and so you'll see right away that we've removed a majority of them for you. All right, so let's talk about how do we get things into Fusion, and okay, and so the best way to do this, there's two ways to do it. Now, if you're dealing with CAD data and you want to collaborate with somebody, maybe you have existing, CAD tools that you're using, and you find it difficult to share or collaborate your design with, either somebody internal or external, maybe a customer or somebody that you're working with. So I'll go through this process, and maybe I'll just put a folder in here. So I want to highlight, we can create a new folder here. We can upload. So I'm going to show you these two things here. So I'll just create a new folder. Maybe I'll call this upload. And part of this invisible data management tool that, kind of how we explain it, a lot of the restrictions that you're used to renaming and moving and copying, you really have to think about it. In Fusion, because our architecture in the back end is cloud-based, we can do things like rename folders and rename files, even when we have them open, and it's not going to break any references. So I'm going to just navigate into this upload folder, and we have this, this navigation area or breadcrumbs or however you want to look at it. And now I can start. Now I have a place to start putting in my or uploading my file. So I can select the upload. We're going to see a very familiar interface here where we can either browse and select individual files, or we can drag and drop. We can see where everything is going to land. And what I'll do here, let me just open up my Finder here, and I've got an upload folder. So the idea of uploading kind of scares people. It takes a long time, and what happens now when I upload it, I have to translate it. These are, if we look at these are SolidWorks files. It's typically the traditional workflow is you open up one file at a time. It requires the native application to translate the file, and then it locks up your machine. So we've really this is one of the barriers that we've unlocked here, where I can grab all of these, and when I come over here, it gives me the quantity, and I can just let go, and the system just pauses. We're not going to assume anything. We're not going to just automatically start uploading files, and I picked an assembly that has a subassembly in it, just to show that our upload process, if you're dealing with CAD, and references, you get to decide what the top level assembly is. And so this crank subassembly is going to be a subassembly underneath the top universal joint here. Okay, and so looking at this, the reason why we kind of pause here and it requires some, interaction is, this is very simple. We can take in a whole entire folder or 100 files, just drag and drop, and then if there's an audio file or something that doesn't make sense to be in this project, then I can hit the X. So we're not piecemealing this. It's one at a time, and you can definitely have a little bit more control of what you're uploading. So when I select upload here, this is key. So I mentioned something before that the traditional CAD, you rely on the local translators and it ties up your machine. When I hit upload here, what happens is, I'm going to just leave this over here. I could minimize this. You see the progress, but I can continue to work. So I can go back into my canvas in Fusion and I can continue to model, and these 12 files or so are going to just be translated in the background. And how can we accomplish this? Well, ideally, because we are cloud-based, all of our translators live in the cloud. So you don't have to worry about versions. Oh, you can see this is already done here, so I'll close this. This is a good sign. So as soon as I see an image, then it's both synchronized to locally on my machine and in the cloud. So not only just with the drag and drop, it translated the file to Fusion, and now I can start sharing this file with anyone. I don't have to go and wait and lock my machine up to do that, or batch translate. So here, how do we share this data? First of all, maybe I'll open this up. Kind of want to show a more realistic workflow. So as soon as I open this up, I'll just close the data panel. You'll notice that this is the translated file. It's generic geometry, but I can still add appearances, materials, properties. I can do some direct modeling. But at this point, I just want to share this with somebody. So it was easy enough for me to drag and drop. Now I'm ready to share this with maybe a customer or internally with a team member. Pretty simple. I can have the file open and I can just right click, and you can see that I can rename this. Maybe that might make sense. So if I rename this, this is usually something that Windows or other operating systems won't let you do. If you actively have a file open, then it's in active memory, and it's not going to let you rename it unless you close it. So here I'll rename this to, obviously this would be probably your part number, your assembly number, and hit enter. And look what happens. It's renaming the file, and I have it open in a tab, and now it's been renamed. So these are some of the things that most people feel like, oh, I got to close it, just rename it. You don't have to. All right, so I've renamed that, and now I need to share it. So I'm going to right click, and there's share public link here. And this is where we start really seeing the benefit of collaborating with people, because it's automatically in the cloud. All right, we don't have to deal with VPNs and FTP sites and stuff traditionally. And the most commonly used form of communicating designs is email, which isn't really secure, and then people have to dig around their email, and more importantly, not all the contributors have access to individual email inboxes. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong there with trying to share through email. So first of all, share public link. I can say, yeah, I'm going to turn this on. I can always go in and remove this share link. We have a short URL, and I can copy this to the clipboard. And then here, if I maybe this is request for quote, or if I'm sending it to somebody just to look at, then I can unselect, allow items to be downloaded. So I'll come back to this. This is very kind of new with viewers for the most part. A lot of viewers just allow you to export out a very, like a mesh, like an STL or something, because really that's all they're sending in their viewer, because it's proprietary. With our viewers, it's actually pointing to the latest version of your Fusion design. So that totally unlocks a lot of possibilities to downloading and utilizing different formats. If I wanted to add another layer of security here, I could specify a password, and then that person would have to have that to even open up the file. I'm just gonna unselect this. So at this point, I'm gonna, I think I already copied this. Let me just do it again here. And we can just pretend that, you can put that in an email, and I'm just gonna navigate over to Chrome here. And just, we recommend Chrome when, let me just paste this in here. When I was taking a look at the data panel in Fusion, okay, so this interface right here is the backbone, or the dumbed down version of this is an extension of Chrome. Okay, we work with other browsers, of course, but the browser of choice is definitely Chrome. All right, so coming over here to here, so here's the viewer, so that you can look at it. If you put on your customer hat, I've just sent you a file to look at, and so there's not going to be a lot of controls over this because you're not part of my project, but I can view, I can measure. So if I come in here, I can measure between here and here. Okay, so you can measure, you can copy this clipboard or whatever. You can restart this. There's also utilities for sectioning. Now this isn't a very complicated assembly, but you can dive into the part, and really, for people that have a hard time, or it's very difficult for them to look at 2D drawing views, this really helps with understanding what they're looking at, because they can rotate, they can zoom in. There's a very simple interface with this. They're also going to get the design. Now we've purposely made this very simple, but if people start clicking around, they can navigate to all of the files, and they can isolate, they can look at information specific to this body, they can close this. Okay, so there's a lot of interaction that can happen with this viewer. This is the shared viewer. And there's settings to turn on certain things in here, and let me just go to the top level here, unisolate that. All right. So the other thing that's important, I'd mentioned this download, and when people hear that, they're like, okay, that's not, it's not a big deal. But if you look at the traditional workflow of sharing data early on in the process, when there's going to be changes, you're going to send, maybe a PDF, possibly the native file format, and maybe a generic format. At least a combination of those two, and those are separate. Those are two separate things that hopefully the recipient is going to keep those in parallel and know to look at the static PDF along with this 3D geometry. We think it should be a lot easier than that, so that's why we allow the download at any point in time, as long as it's turned on, to download the format of the recipient's choice. So you're empowering your customers or your internal shareholders or whatever to download the format they need. So if you think about that, if you've ever been part of that workflow where you go back and forth and try this file and they give you a call and that's not going to work, just all you need to do is say, hey, I've turned on the download. You grab the file that works for you. Now, why this is important is because I mentioned something earlier, that this link right here that I'm sharing, early on in the process, well, a lot of us will wait until, we're, 85% done, because we know this workflow requires to redo this whole thing again, as far as the PDF, the format, whatever, email it out. And so with this link, the shared link will always show the latest version of the file, which is key. So this is a live link. The other part of this viewer that is important to look at is, with the heightened security at companies and proprietary information, a lot of teams don't even have permissions to not only install proprietary viewers, but it's even locked down to the point where they can't install plugins or add-ins for viewers. So if you look at this our viewer, it's a zero client, zero plugin, which means that the link anybody can access from any browser without being restricted of having to install or install a plugin. So that's key. And so anyway, let's take a look. I'm going to go back. I'm going to keep this up, and I want to go back over to Fusion and talk about some things that we can quickly do. I can come over here. I just hit A on the keyboard, and let's say that I just drag and drop, and I'm going to add some color to a few of these things. Okay, that's probably good. All right, something like that. Okay, so I'll close this. I'm going to go and save it. So this is our first introduction to the kind of how we control the versions of inside of Fusion. So we keep every version that you save. So in here, maybe I can add, added appearance. I don't even know how to spell appearance, right? Added appearance, hit OK, and notice that it's going to go from version 1. Okay, and now why this is important, when I come back over to this, let's say that I've made a lot of changes, I've added material properties to this, file, and then I just shoot over, I called the person that had this a couple weeks ago and say, hey, I made some changes. All they have to remember, you're going to recommend that they bookmark this because this link is live, and when they go and select this bookmark again, or the same link out of their email, then they're going to see the latest changes of the file. Okay, so now it's showing color. I could have, modified this file, and they'd see that. So we feel this is a huge benefit to a lot of people. There's one thing there's one area or one place that everything's pointing to, and our viewers take advantage of that. So kind of the idea here is we don't have all these externalized files that you and your contributors have to manage. It's pointed to one location. All right, so this is the viewer from the standpoint of sharing to a customer or somebody outside your organization. If I come back over here to Fusion, if I'm a team member, I have even a little bit more control. So what this means, let me come over here, and I like to highlight this recent data. And so there's this file. If I hit the information bubble, what this is going to do is it's going to open up a lot of things to me. It's going to open up who is currently working on the file. So obviously it says me, but it might have a comma, and maybe another team member might have it open looking at it. So that's very important to see. We can also see all of the versions. So there's version 1. I'm of version 2 right here. So I could open this up side by side, and looking at this very simplified workflow, obviously I know the difference between version 1 and version 2, but if you think about your own files and how many times you save them and possibly how many versions that you have, if a customer calls and says, hey, Shane, I need, version 30 of 100, I need to take a look at that, you can open that up, take a look at it, compare it. It's something that it's read-only, so it's kind of locked down. I could do a save as to create another copy of this. So there's a lot of freedom to go back and forth. And if you're using just Windows or a file system to manage your data, you're probably not archiving anything. Your just latest version is probably what you're keeping. So we're keeping track of all of that. All right. So coming back to here, we have the versions. We can promote, we can open, which I showed you, and also we can dive out to A360. So a lot of engineers, if you have two monitors, you'll have Fusion on one, possibly a web browser on the other that has maybe Outlook and some other things. So this will take me directly to, if I select this, all right, this will take me directly to, open it up a couple times here, to the overview of this file. So this is something that if you talk to people that have to, use a data management tool, one of the things that is cumbersome is finding your data, also finding where it's used and what it contains. Typically, it requires you to know some syntax and some ways to search. So based on this overview, you can see that I have access to all the versions. I get a nice little image. Okay, I have uses where it's used in drawings. So upstream and downstream, I can see where this file is used. And also related data, so things that we consider contains and where used is typically references, either drawings or subassemblies and components. We normally don't think about like renderings and simulation results, so we capture that as well. This is key if you're collaborating with somebody, and you may share a very similar job with somebody else. You might start a simulation on something. Well, you may look in here and say, oh, they've already created it, they've already set it up. And so this is a really good place to see the overview of this assembly. Now I could come in and add a comment to this. This is part of the collaboration. And I can view this or open in Fusion or share it like we talked about before. And I have the navigation settings up here as well. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and select View. This will take me to my Teamviewer. This is another just viewer. So since I have access to this project, then I have some more controls opened up to me. So anybody that's part of my project is going to have the same interface. So before, if you remember in just the typical share, none of this was here. And there's a few things I want to point out where, if I'm part of, let's say I'm a manager and I need to review this, then I have controls for markup. In the shared one, I didn't. Okay, so does that mean that they have to be part of my domain or part of the company I work with? No, you can share and make anybody a team member outside of your organization. So if it's a vendor or a partner that you consider to be part of your process, you can invite them and they'll have the same access. And you can always revoke that or unshare or remove them from the project as well. All right, so I wanted to point out the markup. And again, markups, electronically marking something up, it traditionally is cumbersome. Usually you have to have a proprietary viewer. You have to have some way to mark it up. And in data management tools, because they're tied to an on-premise, database, it requires for the file to be unlocked to append the markups. This again is one of those obstacles that we kind of just remove. And this is a huge part of collaborating where, I need to have several different people mark up this file. Well, I can do this in parallel. There's a lot of cases where you have to do it one at a time and have somebody mark up. So all of those get rolled up. Well, here I can share this link to everyone, all the managers, everybody that needs to mark this up, and they can choose when it's appropriate to mark it up. So I can come in here and say markup, and I get in this mode, and I can say, I'm going to, point to this, and maybe I'll add some text, change material, okay, and depending on, where you rotate, we're going to capture where this is located, and then I'm going to hit save. Now notice what happens. I have this linear thread of comments. So let's say that the next person in line comes in and says, I'm going to do this a little bit differently. Actually, let me rotate this. So maybe somebody will come in here and say, I'm going to put a comment on a point here. Maybe I want to point to, the knob. So see how we have a leader right to the comment, and change diameter, something like that, post this. And so you can start to see that everybody can be in this at once. They have to worry about who has it open, how it's going to be saved. So if I select this, you see what happens. When I select this, it takes me exactly to the orientation. It's very clear what they're pointing to. And then I come in here, and it goes to the orientation, and we have the line right to the comment here, okay? So that's great, right? But what happened, how does this get back? This is the whole, full circle of, this is where things kind of get lost in ECNs and ECOs and how you communicate that to the designers or whatever. So if I come back to Fusion, and when I first saw this was very interesting to me. I'm like, how are we doing this? Because notice I'm in version 2. And like I said before, typically when you add a markup, it appends the file. That metadata gets pushed in and the file's changed, and then there's flags everywhere. Well, what we're doing, there's a comment area right here. When I select this, I'm just refresh it. Maybe I'll pull this away so you can see it. Well, we're just pushing these into the file without upversioning it. Okay, let me repeat that. We're not upversioning the file. And now the person, let me rotate this a little bit and bring this up over here. So if I'm the designer, I don't have to go out to E360. I'm in the same area, and there's a click to view. I can select it. I get a much larger view of this, and I get the ability to go to the true size or zoom to fit. I can read this. I can print it. It's of version 2, and it's kind of hard to see here. Maybe I'll do this on the next one. When let me move this over a little bit. So when I rotate this, when I select this one, remember this was the comment, the point at when I select it. In the background, it's rotating the file. Okay, so here's the view, and let me close that. There we go. Why is that not? Anyway, so this is a very good way to get feedback from whoever's marking this up. Now, the other thing that we can do here is I don't have to go out to some form or some data card or something and say hey, or an email. I can come in here. There we go. That's what I forgot to do. When you click this reply, see how it's going to the exact orientation. All right. So when I hit reply, I can say, sure, whatever you want to put in here. And you can cut and paste. I post this. And then saw your comments, whatever that makes sense. And post this. Now when I come back to the A360 and I refresh this, give this a second here. You can see that you're seeing my face bubble here, but you're going to see other people. Like, sure, I can change that. There's going to be a whole, commentary. Typically, this is in unified messaging, either Link or Skype or something like that, or it's embedded into conversations and email. This is accessible to everyone that's marking this up, which results in what? The reduction of somebody, or you're reducing the percentage of somebody actually commenting the same thing, like, oh, change this diameter. Well, I can see that somebody already suggested that, and I can just focus on something that I need to review, or something that somebody else missed. So this gives you high visibility to the markups, gets embedded into Fusion. It's just really straightforward and simple. So let's talk about we talked about versioning, and we can always go back in time, like I stated before, and go back to version 1. Okay, let's. What I'm going to do here, I don't know if you guys know about this product here. I'm going to close this. Let me turn it on here first. It's called Visor. Now maybe most people may not require this, but part of our collaborative tools, now I've just plugged in my 7-inch tablet here, is mobile devices. So I'm sharing my screen here of my mobile device. I have Fusion 360 installed, and this is Android, but if you're using iPhone or what, if you have a tablet or whatever, it's going to work as well. So I wanted to show the viewer here, so let me pick up my tablet here, and let me move my cursor out of the way here. So this is the view into all my projects. I come in here, you remember this Fusion Street Team. I can come in and let's see here, training material, dive in, there's the upload. This is actually a little different one. I select it, and now I can start viewing files, and I can zoom to pinch and zoom. One finger, obviously will rotate. And again, this is a free viewer. You don't have to purchase anything. And I get the same type of feel. I can, maybe if I want to look at the front, or I want to look at the bottom, or I can hit home, it takes me back home. So I can come in here, I get the same, actually let me close this. I want to explain this here. Oh, there we go. So these four, maybe I will use my cursor here, see these four little bubbles. What's really nice about this interface is when I select one of them, these are the four that are up at the top, so I can look at the assets, the design in here. If this were a drawing, I can see layers. I can look at the body and isolate it. I can look at the comments. I can add a new comment, properties. If I want to look at mass and area, what the appearance versus the material is, I can do all that. I can also interact with this here at this level. Let me go back to the top here, and I'm going to unisolate that. Just kind of swipe this. So when I rotate this around, and if I'm interested in this bracket, we get this array of of tools. So I have, maybe I'll use my cursor. This is isolate, show all. I can comment. I can turn, let me just click that again. It kind of went off. I can turn this off. I can get to information. So it's really meant to use touchscreens and one finger, that type of thing. So I can isolate this file. And so markups on a mobile device work a little differently. I can go ahead and take a snapshot here, edit, and I can come in here and I can do the same thing. I can point to this. I can add text. Okay. I don't know what I want to type here. Change something. Okay, you guys get the idea. And then when I'm done, I can hit OK. And what's really cool about this, I can either share this. I've got a lot of other formats on here, but what I want to do, want to show here, I just upload it to my same project, and maybe I have a markup folder, but maybe I want to put it right in here and say save here. And as soon as I do that, now it's synchronized, and this markup is part of this JPEG is going to be part of the project, and I don't have to be at a computer to mark something up. So where this is important, if I'm traveling, I'm at a customer site, and I just want to jot something down, we tell ourselves we're going to remember it. We can just jump into the Fusion app, mark it up, and that's going to be either for taking notes or reminding me of something or somebody else to do something. Okay? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close this out or just minimize this for a second. I want to come back to something else here shortly. All right, so let me come over to Fusion, and I'm going to attempt to redock this here. There we go. All right, minimize it. So let's open something else up that has, let me see here. Let me do this little search. I didn't talk about the search. You can find something. It's guide block, or maybe I'll look at, there we go. Maybe I'll open this up. Okay, not sure why this is taking so long. All right, so here we go. I've got this this assembly, and I got a few things out of date, which we do a really good job. This component is out of date. I can just go ahead and get all latest version, or I can choose a version of this as well. All right, this is all up to date. I might save this. Updated versions, whatever. Okay. All right. So now what I wanted to do is just talk about, when I look at this file, you notice a little spinny thing here. As soon as that goes away, that's your little indicator that it's synchronized to the cloud, which I rely on quite a bit. And another thing that happens, you see that it jumped up to the top. I have my kind of filtering or sorting set to recent, which I prefer, because anything that regardless of the name, because we're doing numeric and then alphabetically sorting, regardless of that, it'll push things up to float up to the top of the things I've touched recently. So here, what's interesting about this is that here's I want to show something that has a lot more versions. We're showing the latest 3, where I can also show all versions and go back any point in time with this file and take a look at it. And this just happens This just happens in the background for you. Okay. All right. So here, what I wanted to do is I'm going to travel down here and open this up in A360. Oops. Let me try this again here. There we go. And I'll now bring this back up. All right. So here you can see something that makes a little bit more sense. You know, that was imported geometry. And let me just maximize this. So here I have its uses. I can see where it's used in, which isn't anything right now. Drawings. And then I have a few drawings that point to this, one of the parts in this assembly. And then I also have some animations and renderings. So if I had, if I had simulations, it would show up here too. I get all the comments. So everything is just right here, accessible, and really easy to look at. So the last thing that I have planned today is to show you something we're very proud of. Let me come back over to Fusion, and maybe I'll do it from this guy here. First of all, under my preferences, if you're interested in this, under the preview, if you're new to this, we're allowing customers to take a look at some things that we're working on. Okay, one of these is live review. So to do this, there's two types of live review. There's from Fusion to a viewer, and then viewer to viewer live review. So this one turns it on inside of Fusion. If you're looking for that, it's in the preview. And next, what I can do is come up here and say live review session. If you haven't saved your file, it will require that. All right. So what I'm going to do, here's the little console for this. I'm the only presenter at this point, obviously. I'm going to copy this, and let me go to my email, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new email here. And so obviously you'd paste this in an email and send it. So I just sent an email. And I'm going to go over, let's see if I still have this going. Okay, I'll have to restart this, it's fine. Try this again. There we go. Sorry about that. All right. It was hidden. So in here, let me just go home, and let's see, is this my new email? Let me see here. All right, so live review, there's the link. And I'll open this up, I'll select it, and this is from my tablet. Okay. And so what happens, this is gonna, work in the background, and it's gonna initialize the session. So this would be, the name of the person, and I would put in, I'll just put in manager for now, so you can kind of see how this works. So before, I shared out a link and everything, is a live link, but this is live review. Let me just move this over here. And how this works, now I apologize for the resolution here, because I don't have a lot of real estate to work with, so I'm going to try to minimize this as much as I can. Fusion takes up the bulk of this, and I'm going to so you'll notice that now there's 2 people in here, and we can have up to 12. Okay, we can have up to 12 people in a live review. And so what happens? Let me minimize this a little bit too, so you can see kind of both of these. All right, so I'm going to move this over here so you can kind of see both. Now, see the little red dot that's on my tablet? That's the cursor in Fusion. So when I rotate, it rotates on my tablet. Okay, when I zoom in, when I isolate. Okay, so this is pretty cool. You can have a phone conversation, and if you think about trying to get, let's say 12 people in the same room to make a decision, it's fairly painful. So this allows you to, you look at calendars, you're like, hey, looks like everybody is available. Let's jump on a live review. And ultimately, the objective is to get to a decision a lot quicker. So one of the things that can happen with this live review is I can come in here and let's say that I'm talking to somebody, the manager, and like, you know what, Shane, this doesn't look thick enough. You need to change it. So I can come in here, push pull, and I can grab these two faces. Okay, and I can dive this out. And if I just wait a little bit, okay, it will, or hit OK, that will update in the viewer. So if you think about this doesn't really happen now, because what normally will dictate something to graphically update, that is a save. Well, I'm in this file. I may not want to save this, but I want to conceptually kind of change some things and make sure that people can see my changes. So I'm going to show this again. If I repeat this press pull, and they're like, maybe you want this a little bit thicker, and if I let go here and just wait, I haven't hit OK. It's graphically updating what's showing on Fusion. And I can hit OK here, and more importantly, somebody's like, maybe you grab press pull again, and I need to fill it here. So here I can, somebody says, I want to see a 5mm fillet in here. Well, it just happened so quick. You can see that it already updated. Hit OK, and people feel a lot better about the decision-making process because they're part of it. And then if somebody, if somebody's like, this is taking too long, Shane, for you to, navigate, then you can come over here to this, and I can make the manager now the presenter. And what happens, I'm going to come over here to my tablet here, and now I'm taking my finger and rotating this. It's rotating my view in Fusion. And so now you can empower somebody else to take control, pinch and zoom in, focus on something. And again, it should speed up the process of making a decision. All right, so that's what I had planned today. Hopefully this gives you a great overview of Fusion, how we can collaborate, how we've really removed a lot of the obstacles of having to email. You've seen in this whole process that we're alleviating all of the externalized documents like PDFs and formats to go along with markups. And then, one thing that a lot of people, when they look at this, are like, hey, there's no attachments to worry about. So don't have to worry about attachments because everything points to that one single location in A360. All right, so looks like there's a couple questions. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I've left a little bit of time, and we can go through those. So it looks like, let's see here. If a new version is created every time the file is stored, is there a way to send a previous version for review? Let's see, one way, maybe explicitly state which version for someone to review. Okay, good question. So there's it depends on who you're sending it to. The publicly shared, and this is for Josh, the publicly shared link is the latest version. Let me come back to here. If you're part of the team member, I could come through and explicitly share, I could view this and share this link part of my team? So the answer is kind of both. We thought about it. We didn't want to complicate versions, and so publicly facing, it's the latest version. Internally, you can have control over that, and I think typically that's what people really want access to, is versions inside of their team. All right. You are welcome, Josh. Any other questions that you have? I hope that people see this, that they get excited, because this is very powerful, easy to use, and you've heard a lot of people talk about accessibility, where we're allowing your data to be shared with anyone without having some restrictive viewer or you don't have to VPN or anything. So this is the direction where everything's going with collaboration, with data management. It's really all right. Thanks, Diego. All right. Well, I'll leave it open here. Let's see here. Does live review have audio or chat? Good question. We've talked about it. VoIP is something that is highly possible, and one of the I work closely with the PM that manages this portion of it. Very possible. I think there's some things that are a higher priority with this interface, where there's some things that we're still migrating, some settings, specifically permissions, those types of things. But yeah, we've talked about that. It would be cool to have a little there you can chat. I guess I didn't show that very well, did I? Let me see if I can come back to this. So in here there is comments here. So you can chat with the participant, but I guess I always forget to show it, because typically, if you have to rely on the chat, some things can get lost, and really calling the person and talking to them and then pointing, it makes sense. So that's where I think the VoIP question comes into play, where that'd be perfect. Like GoToMeeting has VoIP. This would be awesome as well to do that. And yeah, it's on our radar for sure. All right. Well, I really appreciate your guys' time. I hope you guys have learned a lot. We've recorded this session. You can always come back. Feel free to share it. And all right. So hopefully you guys are looking forward to spending some time in our collaborative tools with Fusion. Thank you.